You've got FunFactor, two old gamers reviewing old video game magazine reviews.
I'm Aidan Moher, a games journalist you've read everywhere from EGM to Wired.
And I'm Schalter. I'm best known for my sports analysis at places like Bleacher Report, Vice, and SiriusXM, but I've covered tech, games, and geek culture from the inside for years.
I'm also the author of Fight Magic Items, the history of Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and the rise of Japanese RPGs in the West.
Well, I got a byline at Waypoint back when it was still a real Waypoint.
Yeah, well, I'm a Hugo Award-winning critic of science fiction and fantasy.
Well, my Virtual Boy still works.
I know the exact TVL count for all of my Tube DVs.
The point is, we know our stuff. And we know it because we spent our formative years stuffing our brains with all the gaming news, features, interviews, previews, and yes, reviews that a bunch of writers and editors barely older than we were at the time could cram into 100 or 200 pages a month. So grab your gate key and follow along as we travel through the history of both video game media and our podcast.
You know, when I was 12 at the time, this felt like a bunch of adults who knew what they were talking about. Now I look at this and like Chris Slate's like letter from the editor profile picture, he looks like he's 18 years old. He was a kid running a magazine with a bunch of other kids to write about video games for younger kids.
They had reviews in just this issue for 10 different systems: PlayStation, Saturn, 3DO, Jaguar, 32X, PC, Sega CD, Sega Genesis, SNES, and arcade. It's fascinating to me, this era that we're starting with, like 1995, this sort of generation gap, is just so different than the ecosystem we have today.
I mean, we've got 10 consoles that you listed off there. Arcade, which just
doesn't exist, yeah,
is wild to me. But like, we're in an ecosystem where like Nintendo does their Nintendo thing. Sony and Microsoft don't really seem to know or remember how to actually run like a console business. And that's it, right? And then we've got, you know, like mobile games. Reading other people thinking deeply about why they liked games and what it meant to play them helped us grow into the kind of people who turn a critical eye on everything, including our beloved old game mags.
It's not like we couldn't tell, even as tweens and teens, that along with all the stuff we loved, we were also soaking our brains in blatant sexism, weird Orientalism, and capitalist brain rot. But now, as grown-ups who get paid to do this, it's shocking to be confronted with just how much bad and weird stuff was often just a page or a sentence away from the snappy critical writing we chose to carry with us.
Sigh. Next to falling nose deep into a pile of cheerleaders, there's nothing I like better than a sprawling, complicated, gorgeous, funny, well-made RPG, and gosh darn it if those folks at Square didn't go ahead and send me one 2 or 3 times a year. You gotta love them.
I gotta say, Aidan, I had blocked out that this is the lead of this interview, and like rereading, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He does start there.
Oh, yeah.
And I also, reading it now, I think we have does a dog wear pants like this or like this issue with falling nose deep into a pile of cheerleaders? Because I think as a kid, I pictured like a leaf pile, and then like, okay, timber, and then you only hit the surface and you only go nose deep. But it could also be, I picture jumping into a pool of, and then it goes up to your right. Nostrils, yeah. Preposterous on all levels.
Jeff's email is in this issue. We could ask him.
I will email jfflcky@netcom.com. I will do it right now.
But we're also getting pleasantly surprised by how much hard proof there is in these pages that gaming and games media was never just by or for guys like us.
Coming to you from Crosset, Arkansas, Cody Bearden. I'd like a pen pal 8 to 12 who has a NES or Sega. I want a boy, but a girl is fine.
Guess a girl's fine.
I'm sure Liz and Amanda and Jessica and Mindy and Vivian and Crystal. I'm just reading apparently girls' names from this big long list of pen pal. Like looks like basically a 50-50 gender split.
That's what I wanted to talk about next. We do look back at this and it does feel like a magazine written for boys, but you get to this connection section and the people looking, to connect with other people, there's about a 50-50 mix of boys and girls.
The Ultra Game Players review actually called out Barrett's dialogue and the translation and going, okay, he's like walking around talking like Mr. T. And like, wow, this dude is like a stereotype, which again, I was surprised and pleased to see called out. As working media pros who are always on deadline for something, we can see all the editorial seams that we couldn't as kids. Who interviewed Nolan Bushnell for this? Who wrote this? Because I think you know well, Aidan, you pitch an article to an editor and you start doing the research and you realize that the angle that you pitched ain't what it is. And it's not the reality, but you are trying to claw, mold, and bend reality into the shape of the story that you wanted to tell. So there was a PSX, short for PlayStation Experience magazine, that had been running for 17 issues, and then it was acquired by Ziff Davis and Sony. They gave the original editor double the budget and headcount and just slapped the official name on it, and relaunched in October 1997, 1 month after PSM #1.
I mean, okay, two thoughts here. Can we do more of that? Can we double budget and headcount like for magazines and websites, please? Like, let's go back to that.
Right.
Critics writing critique should never be worried about that, right? Like, they should never be worried if they want to give a game an 8, is that going to like literally cost hundreds of people tens of thousands
of dollars. That should not be on that.
You know, like that should never be something that a critic has to consider.
Right.
But that is starting to get to be the point. And then, of course, on the flip side, it gets weaponized by communities.
Yeah, well, I guess the good news now is critics can say whatever they want because the team that created it is getting laid off either way, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's just, oh no, sorry, 4-star, 5-star, 1-star, 2-star. Yeah, we're closing the studio. And of course, what kind of writers or critics would we be if we didn't literally review the reviews? 8 out of 10 Buster Swords.
7 silver points out of 10.
This is 10 out of 10. The cycling hat that Wesley Snipes wears in White Men Can't Jump.
Listen for the nostalgia of grubby little fingers flipping glossy magazine pages, but subscribe for the way we tie everything back to how we play, critique, and talk about games in 2025.
Our first season will cover the transition from the 16-bit generation to 32 and 64-bit consoles, but all of our discussions will be informed by and resonate with contemporary games and games journalism. And our guests, interviews, and bonus episodes will feature people and topics relevant both then and now. You can follow the free feed however you're listening to us right now, or just go to funfactorpod.com for all the options. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, whatever, and join our community Discord. You can also hit the big button in the top right to become a member of FunFactor Ultra, our premium tiers that unlock ad-free episodes, bonus episodes, and the members-only channel of our Discord. Then help us spread the word. Shout us out on Blue Sky or X at FunFactorPod. Tell friends. Pass this show around like it's 3rd grade, we're out on the playground, and inside there's a blurry photo of a projection TV in a crowded convention hall that's allegedly showing footage from the sequel to your favorite game ever. And if you do, then every other Tuesday, you and we will have a maximum score in Fun Factor. Remember, funfactorpod.com.